Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be with us here for today's Coach's Corner, where we will be discussing supporting scholars through crisis. My name is Jacob Samples, and I am one of several counselors here at Compass Charter Schools. And I support scholars in 6th through 12th grades whose last names begin with G through L. Additionally, I have my co-presenter, Mrs. Schwartzberg, here as well, and she's also a counselor here at Compass and supports scholars whose last names begin with M through R. Go ahead and give me a yes in the chat box if you can hear me okay before we jump in. All right, okay, so let's go ahead and quickly go over today's agenda. So we're going to be defining crisis and what that looks like in young people. We're going to be going over the top 10 topics of crisis that we typically see in young people, as well as some of the signs and symptoms that we look for. We're going to be discussing how to find resources, both through the CCS website and otherwise. And then we're also going to be talking about the counselor's role here at Compass Charter Schools when it comes to managing crisis in young people. Okay, so the definition of crisis: it's a time of intense difficulty, struggle, trouble, or danger. All of which can have adverse effects on a young person's mental and physical well-being, as well as their academic progress. So, as you can see here, crisis can look a lot of different ways. It can look like bereavement, which is kind of suffering loss, and we'll go over these in more detail. Self-harm, bullying, isolation, suicidal thoughts, family issues, depression, stress and anxiety, friendships, and even relationships at this age. Okay, so here we have bereavement. So this is essentially the process of experiencing and managing loss, such as loss for a loved one or a peer. Signs and symptoms in young people in bereavement can include denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and these are some of the stages as well. And then eventually, we would hope for acceptance. Here we have self-harm. Self-harm can essentially be described as the act of deliberately inflicting pain and damage to one's own body. Some signs and symptoms that we see in young people include cutting, burns, scratches, pattern scarring on the body, and various other forms of injury as well. Here we have bullying. And bullying can basically be described as harassment that includes hostile intent, an imbalance of power, repetition, distress, and provocation. And some of the signs and symptoms that we often see in young people are avoiding social interaction, both in and out of school, sudden weight fluctuation and changes in eating habits, declining grades, especially when it's not typical for that scholar, decreased self-esteem, and even injury, which can include self-injury. Here, next, we have isolation. And isolation can be described as feeling alone or deliberately separating oneself from family and friends. And some of the signs and symptoms include avoiding social opportunities, a generalized lack of energy and motivation, a sense of despair, a sense of hopelessness, or even a sadness. Next, we have suicidal thoughts and tendencies. And basically, suicidal thoughts and ideations can be described as the intent to or thoughts about ending one's own life. And sometimes those are even accompanied by a detailed plan in which you should seek emergency services pretty much right away. And some signs and symptoms of this in young people are depression, sudden changes in personality, hopelessness, despair, a lack of general interest in life events, any sudden change in appearance, whether it's appearance in the body or appearance even in the way they dress, self-harm, declining grades again, and just overall withdrawal. Next, we have family issues. Family issues can present themselves in many different ways, but can be summarized basically as stress that may include dealing with things like divorce, sibling rivalry, parent power struggles, or just day-to-day annoyances. Some signs and symptoms of a young person struggling with family issues that would fall under the crisis umbrella can be strong emotions, overreaction to like minor irritations, any kind of disturbed sleep, or even withdrawing from friends and family altogether. Next, we have depression. And depression can essentially be described as a persistent feeling of sadness and or loss of interest in activities. And some signs and symptoms can include things like crying spells, feeling hopeless or empty, a loss of interest in activities, sleeping more or less, having low self-esteem when it's not common especially, irritability, trouble concentrating, or even thoughts of death and suicide. Those are the things you would look for. Next, we have stress and anxiety, which can essentially be described as nerves or worry that may be caused by things like a test, applications, relationships, family issues, and there's just a plethora of other things that can induce stress and anxiety, as you all know. And some of the signs and symptoms that we look for in young people are things like persistent worrying, overthinking, immediately jumping to worst case scenarios, difficulty handling uncertainty, feeling restless, or even difficulty concentrating. Next, we have issues related to friendships. This can pretty simply be summarized as quote unquote drama that we see in young people, especially teens. And some of the signs and symptoms that we would see with teens who were in crisis mode from something like this would be gossip and rumors, jealousy, feeling betrayed or betrayal, bullying, harassment, feeling caught in the middle of friends, sudden changes in friendship groups, and in social circles. And here we have romance and relationships. I know that's often not something parents are comfortable discussing, but the fact is, this is that, especially in the later teenagers, this is where they start to think about these things. And that can be described as any kind of stress that relates to romantic interests or unhealthy relationships even. And some signs and symptoms of this are possessiveness or being overly jealous, changing as a person, unexplained injuries, constant check-ins, or just noticing that a relationship is moving too quickly. And now I'm going to pass the baton over to Mrs. Schwartzberg.
Thank Thank you so much, Mr. Samples. As you all can hear, my voice is a little bit strained, so I do want to just apologize ahead of time, as well as make sure that my mic is working well and that you can hear me. So go ahead and type in your chat box if you can hear me. Perfect. Thank you so much. So everything that you just heard about is so vital, especially as a parent or a learning coach. Those were the top 10 topics of crisis that scholars typically go through. And usually the first line of defense is in the home. So as a learning coach, parent, you're really going to notice these symptoms, so to speak, or these behaviors or changes within your scholar. And so you definitely want to make sure that you're paying attention to any changes and then communicating or taking the next step that would be needed to find help for your scholar. So thank you again, Mr. Samples. That was great to go through those top 10. There can be more. It can be a combination of all of those. And really, Mr. Samples and I are here to just let you know that we're here to help. We don't have all of the answers right away. And we just really want to share with you what we are able to support with and what we can do so that in the event your scholar is going through something, that you know what else is out there and what you can do to help. So the counselor's role with Compass Charter School, beyond the academic support that I'm sure you're well aware of because we communicate quite a bit in the academic realm, is also a social emotional support. And so on the screen, what you'll see, excuse me, are just a few of our social emotional support programs that are already in place. And so first and foremost is our one-on-one scholar check-ins. So if we're made aware, or if we ourselves or a teacher or a learning coach or parent comes forward and lets us know a scholar is in need of help, we can do regular one-on-one check-ins. And listed there are just some of the topics that are pretty common when those are scheduled, and they include anxiety and stress, family peer issues, bullying and harassment, conflict resolution, and crisis response. I do want to let you know that the social emotional support one-on-one check-ins have a focus of allowing the scholar to express what they're going through, with the focus of helping them get back to their academics. And we also have small group sessions, so it may be around 4 or so scholars that have similar issues that want that group setting, but it's a small group, so it's a safe environment where scholars can come together and kind of share similar experiences that they're having in a safe place. And then also the counseling department has workshops and presentations, just like you're in one right now, but specifically for scholars as well. Learning coaches can always join. And we usually have a set menu, so to speak, each month. And just make sure you keep an eye on Parent Square calendar in order to RSVP. If you can't attend live, you can always request recordings. And not all are available with a recording, especially if it is too highly sensitive in a social emotional topic. But most of the time we are able to offer a recording as well. So those are just 3 of the areas where we offer support right here, just as part of our typical curriculum through Compass Charters. We also have resources already up on the website, and you can view it at any time. So if your scholar is currently in crisis and you want a resource right now, you can hop on the website and information's right there right now, or just keep this, in your back pocket in case you need it in the future. So what you're looking at is a screenshot of our main website, which is https://www.compasscharters.org. And that's the main website. And over all the way on the right-hand side, there's a blue button. I know it's a small screenshot, but there's a blue button that says Parents and Scholars, and I have a giant green arrow pointing to where it is. So you would go ahead and click Parents and Scholars, And once you click that, it'll take you to a login page that looks like this. And it will ask for a password. And all scholars, all learning coaches, parents, they have access to our Parents and Scholars site. And so in case you don't remember what the password is, it's love CCS, and CCS is in all caps. So once you log in, you're going to get to a page that looks like this that says Learning Coach Resources. And it'll be the third icon from the left. It says Counseling Resources. Again, I know it's small, I apologize. But it's the third one from the left. There's a green arrow to show you which one it is. And it says Counseling Resources. Once you get into there, it's the fourth icon from the left. It's the little house. And then that's the community resources that are going to be really helpful, especially if you need to find some outside community support for your scholar. Once you click that, it's organized by location. The first that you will see is all locations. These are a lot of hotlines. Some of them are 24/7, which may be helpful as well. So you can go ahead and take a look at that on your own time, should you need it. There are also resources that are separated by location. We have Los Angeles resources, San Diego, Riverside, and desert areas, as well as Fresno. Again, some are hotlines, some are counseling, outside counseling, therapeutic, more heavy-duty kind of psychotherapy type resources, and it can cover all topics. So when we're talking about crisis, it's hard to get too specific because, again, it all just depends on what it is specifically that your scholar is going through. Unfortunately, more often than not, the counseling team finds that we are talking to scholars about grief and death, unfortunately. So we did want to just provide some examples of some resources that we can provide as well. And so what you see here on the screen are two different lists of some good reading material if a scholar is going through something pretty heavy like grief. Over on the left, you'll see a link. It's clickable here, so you can actually click on your screen right now and it should open up into your browser. You feel free to do that now. I'll give you a minute to do that. And you can bookmark it on your page. Excuse me. But the one on the left is more for our older scholars, or even our parents and learning coaches, even for adults. But the one on the left are 11 books that will help confront grief and talk about it in an open and honest way, helping scholars process all of their emotions. The one on the right is a list of about 64 children books. And honestly, it's good for children as well as teens and adults, because sometimes it's a bit easier to process information when maybe it's not, a chapter book and maybe it's a child's book. At least it would open a conversation. So you can go ahead and click those links if you find that you may need that, or that would be relevant to you. All right, and I'm going to click to the next slide because I'd imagine you've clicked them by now if you need them. And that's really all we have time for today. I would like for you to go ahead and click this link here. It's an attendance for the Learning Coach Lounge. So if you were able, I'm so sorry, my dog started to bark. If you were able to join today, please go ahead and click this brief attendance survey. And I'll keep it up here on the slide for